So why don't you have sex with a real life woman and have her tell you that your dick is small?
Also, free service, real quick. Hey, nice Irish guy. Fuck you. You got a small little cock. I can't even see it, you little bitch. There you go. Now you don't have to pay any of these chicks.
Yeah. It's also just like have control over yourself.
Yeah,
Is that degrading enough, you fucking loser? Okay.
Hello, everybody. How you doing? We're very excited about this episode of the podcast where we're going to discuss being addicted to being a pay pig. We're going to talk about masculinity and how dangerous and it is. And we're also going to talk about family drama that happens when you're a kid that involves your parents, one of them cheating with your friend's mom. So welcome to another episode of the show.
Yes, it's the Anti-Slut Shaming Podcast. I'm Corinne Fisher.
I'm Krystyna Hutchinson.
Welcome, welcome, welcome. This is, as Krystyna mentioned, subject line is addicted to being a pay pig. Hi, girls. Huge fan and have something on my mind and think you might be the perfect people to talk to.
Pray tell.
Years ago, I got into being a girls pay pig via Twitter. I literally just send money for nothing. This gave me a thrill, but soon after I stopped because I found it hard to justify. A few months went by. And the girl came back offering to sell content to continue getting money from me. So I immediately took this up and loved the arrangement.
Nice.
A few years now, I have similar arrangement with around 6 girls from Twitter.
Yo, that's a lot of money.
None who I know in real life. I can't seem to go a week without buying something from one of these women. My favorite is to have my penis size degraded and get some type of humiliation. But the big problem is I might DM one girl, one in the mood for this, and if I get no answer, I will DM another and get 2 back at the same time and end up buying off both, meaning I'm at a stage where my monthly wage is going towards my kink.
Okay.
I would love your general thoughts on this and any advice on how to go about stopping this. Anything missed or any follow-up questions, I'd be happy to answer. All the best, your biggest Irish fan, nice guy.
Wow. So what I have a couple ideas that sprung to mind when Corinne was reading this. One is get an AI girlfriend you can ask her to insult you. I don't know how good she's going to be at it, but maybe you could train her. And I say her, but it's a robot. The other one is open up some additional bank accounts for yourself and put the money in there, but like pretend that it's going to a gal who's telling you got a tiny dick.
Yeah. And I also think, to me, this just reeks of gambling addiction and addiction in general. Like, I notice specifically pay pigs, but you have an addiction issue here with this. So you need to fucking control yourself is the main problem, whether that means going to meetings, whether that means having someone else hold on to your money, whether it means blocking some of these girls on Instagram. Don't worry about people's feelings. This is a business. They're not your actual girlfriends or friends. Everything's gonna work out okay for them. When you bring up the point of like sometimes you're in the mood for something, this it's like you need a fix immediately, like a drug addict. So you're like, I call someone for a fix, and then if I can't get my fix from there, I reach out to someone else, and then they both reach back out to me. You're under no obligation to buy from both of these women. If they want a better business model, then they got to answer faster. I don't know what to tell everybody.
Also, you're enveloped. Is that the right? Enveloped? I think that's really...
Enveloped, yes.
Enveloped and enveloped are the two different things?
It's the same thing, but I would say in that context, I would say enveloped.
Right? Yeah. So I was like, I said envelope. Anyway, in the energy of addiction, as Corinne said, and there's this amazing book called We Are All Addicts by a guy named Carter Stout, Carder. I can't recommend that book enough because we're all addicted to something, and yours is pay pigs, being a pay pig, and it's really costing you. You got to get out of this. But those moments, I think with addiction, it's like the voice in your head says, ooh, this is what we want now. And you go, oh, yes, sir. Okay. It's like you're being a pay pig to your own internal voice. And so what's really going to happen for you to break through this, what the actions that need to happen? It's like when they say, how do you stop smoking? Easy. You don't pick up a cigarette. Your hands never touch a cigarette. You'll never smoke a day in your life unless you have like some chick fucking putting it up to your mouth. So when you have these urges, somewhere to start is sitting still, and it's going to be like the worst thing that your ego doesn't want to do, and you're going to maybe throw a temper tantrum or whatever, but that's going to get easier. And that's how you can stop this cycle because you're losing all your money.
Also, baby cakes, like, okay, you have this kink, but you don't always have to pay people for it. It seems like more than the paying, you're addicted to the
degrading,
the people, saying that your dick is small. So why don't you have sex with a real life woman and have her tell you that your dick is small?
Also, free service, real quick. You could play this back on the podcast. Oh, nice guy. Hey, nice Irish guy. Fuck you. You got a small little cock. I can't even see it. Well, I can't even see it. I see your stomach, but I don't see your little dick. You little bitch.
You have a small dick. Does that make you feel like a little baby? Because it's disgusting.
There you go. Now you don't have to pay any of these chicks.
Yeah.
Wow.
But also just like have control over yourself.
Is
that degrading enough? You fucking loser. Okay. Playing, guys, playing. Venmo me. Don't Venmo me. Do not Venmo me. All right. Bonus episodes are back on Luminary, so make sure to check it out if you're a subscriber. Sorry for that little delay there. It was just a contractual issue. We were negotiating, and we wanted to get those bonus episodes coming back out to you ASAP. So look out.
I'm glad.
For one, it's probably there right now.
Yeah, I had to get some things off my chest. The last bonus episode that we just recorded, that's going to be released soon. So, it's going to be released by the time you hear this. So if you want to listen, subscribe to Luminary on the Apple Podcast app or on the Luminary app. And then come see us on the road. Toronto, I'm in you July 28th and 29th. Los Angeles, I'm headlining by myself, the main room at the Comedy Store, one night only, August 2nd. It's at 10:30 p.m. Get your fucking tickets. San Diego, I'm going to be at American Comedy Company August 3rd, 4th, and 5th. Dallas, Texas, technically Fort Worth, but I'm saying Dallas, August 11th and 12th. Make sure to get tickets at ChristinaHutchinson.com. And if you're in the mood for 4 times a month, weekly group therapy in quotes over Zoom, because I'm not a licensed therapist, basically group lamenting, group sharing, and you want to only pay $5 a month for it, well, you can go to patreon.com/ChristinaHutchinson, where you could sign up, because in the fall, the rate's going up to like $15. So get in that $5 level while you can.
And I'll probably be on the road a little bit more in the fall or early 2024. But right now I'm staying in New York, babies. And so you can see me at shows around town, obviously, or you can follow my Gash Slasher comedy, because I'm in LA a lot this year. And you don't want to miss it, because those shows sell out in like 4 to 7 hours. So the next one's August 23rd, already sold out. But if you're in the neighborhood, you can try and pay cash night of to get a standby ticket. There's usually a couple left. But again, I always say only in the neighborhood. Do not travel far to get those night of tickets. And then if you just want to continue listening to my voice, it's Without a Country podcast that comes out everywhere on Wednesdays. It is produced by the Gas Digital Network, and it's just a different perspective of mainstream traditional news. We look at it from the perspective of the right and the left. We discuss it, we roast it. It's a good time, and it's a quick way to catch up with everything that's going on in the world with someone that you know, you love, and you trust. And we also do some fun interviews, like we interviewed one of Crystalia's victims. We interviewed this guy who's trying to sell this new type of math, but it's basically like he's masking religion into it. We have a good time. We have a good time on the show. So make sure to subscribe on YouTube, Without a Country podcast. You can also follow that Instagram and share the reels that I put up summarizing the show every week, usually around Wednesday or Thursday. And of course, also subscribe while you're on YouTube to Guys We Fcked. It's youtube.com/Guys We Fcked without the U in fucked. We also have a specific clips channel. If you're more of a short content person, we have the clips channel, which is featured on the main Guys We Fcked channel. And then, of course, we're also on TikTok at Guys We Fcked without the U in fucked, and Instagram, same thing. All right.
Cute.
So Krystyna said that at the top of the show, we're going to talk about a little bit about masculinity. Mostly, I was inspired to talk about this because on July 10th, there was an op-ed in the Washington Post called "Men Are Lost. Here's a Map Out of the Wilderness" by Christine Emba. And it talks about a lot of concepts that we know about, but I think it's applicable to comedy in many ways, and like why the type of comedy that becomes popular remains popular. Because comedy is certainly still a male-skewed whatever the word is.
Industry.
Yeah, that's a good one. The field industry, any of these work. And so she talks a little bit about how a couple years ago she noticed that men were just, especially young men, were kind of just acting weird, acting different than normal. And she thought, maybe it was like the incels that were getting her attention. But she realized from all the stuff that was kind of rising to the top, like the Jordan Petersons, the Andrew Tates, that what was really happening was that women, and we've talked about this concept before, women were continuing to thrive and to progress and to take on some more masculine roles, but men didn't really know or don't really know where they stand anymore, and they don't understand or they don't have a clear concept of what masculinity is, right? So as women don't need men more and more to rely on financially, to provide for them, to protect them. We are not living out in the wilderness anymore. It seems that, upon her estimation, she was saying, it seems like the problem is men don't know how to be men, but she didn't mean it in a demeaning way. She truly was like, they don't know what their place in society is anymore. And so they're acting out, and they're really looking for guidance because they're not finding it anywhere else. Maybe they're not finding it in the home. They're not finding it within themselves. And so they are gravitating towards these people like Jordan Peterson or Andrew Tate, who are just kind of simply being these father figures, telling them how to live, telling them how to get their shit together and be a man and get their life together. Because while I do think it is extremely important for men to get in touch with their feminine side and their emotions, perhaps these younger generations, we have gone too far in one direction where they kind of don't even know how to handle themselves, stand up for themselves, because when I think about protecting and providing, obviously, those go under the masculine column, but they are also things that I feel like I can do for myself and could do for other people.
Yeah. Well, every person on this planet, whether you're trans, cisgender, whatever, you have a masculine side and you have a feminine side. So I think that leaning into the very unique levels of how much you want to be masculine, how much you want to be feminine, and what times, what situations with what people is completely up to you. And when I was reading this article, I thought about I love being a woman, but my definition of being a woman is not everybody's definition of being a woman.
Sure.
The way that I dance with my sexuality and my sex appeal and my softness and my there's so many parts of a woman that but I only take 5 of them that I like, and that's how I define being a woman. So it's I think women are already used to there's obviously society's expectation of what a woman should be, but we've kind of realized that was fucked up a long time ago, and have been kind of low key working on what we want,
right?
What we want the woman I want to be is, and I think that now it's men's chance or turn or responsibility. You kind of can't get out of it now of defining what a man is to you as an individual,
right? And that's kind of what she's talking about in this article. So many of the examples of masculinity that are provided online are kind of these
it's culture-y.
Yeah, and she talks about actually going to see Jordan Peterson speak, which I have also did years ago. And she's like, yeah, there's nothing really special about him. He's not really telling you anything that is groundbreaking, in his 12 steps or whatever the hell book that was so popular. He's saying things make your bed, stand up straight, but it's these very simple concepts that for some reason or another skips this generation of men, and they see that and they feel and you see it the way male fans gravitate towards, and I see it mostly in comedy, as I'm sure you do, because that's the world that we're in. But the way even, Legion of Skanks is a great example. The reason why that works is because they have created a community where the men can feel whatever type of men they want to feel like. And a lot of times, sure, that's calling other women sluts or whatever. But it's more it's more than the calling the women sluts. It's the like sense of community, and I really believe that. And and it's hard to kind of digest or explain to other people.
Yeah, and they're going.
But I see why it works.
Yeah, and they're leaning into the more animalistic nature of a man, than other men would lean into.
Yeah, because she even says in this article last summer, and we remember this article last summer, a Psychology Today article caused a stir online by pointing out that dating opportunities for heterosexual men are diminishing as relationship standards rise. No longer dependent on marriage as a means to financial security or even motherhood, a growing number of women are choosing to create families by themselves with the help of reproductive technology. Women are increasingly selective, leading to a rise in lonely, single young men, more of whom now live with their parents than a romantic partner.
Damn.
Men also account for almost 3 of every 4 deaths of despair, either from a suicide, alcohol abuse, or an overdose.
Fuck.
And over the past 50 years, it talks about all the strides that women have made in the workplace as far as getting degrees.
A lot of improvements we've had.
And men just aren't hitting those numbers. Like they're not doing it.
And I do think like when the Me Too movement resurfaced, I feel like a lot of men felt attacked, which I'm like, that's so unfortunate because that's not at all what we're saying. Maybe a handful of people are kind of leaning towards that message, but like that's not. And I feel like men just feel like left out of everything. And then when if you think about like the average man, how many friends does the average man have? Not a ton. How many deep conversations is the average man having with his male friends about sexuality, about dating, about finding who you are, about your morals and values and how have they evolved, if at all? Like these are not the types of conversations that I hear a lot of men talk about. My personal circle, I think I have a lot of male friends, but they're all very introspective and very in touch with themselves because that's kind of like my criteria. I don't want to be friends with you if you're not like that, male or female. So yeah, but like there's so often we hear of men just kind of shutting off to the world. So it makes a lot of sense that they're drinking themselves to death or killing themselves because that's awful and sad, and it doesn't make you weak to feel those things.
Yeah, and then kind of she points out like one of the reasons that she believes or that she saw firsthand why people were gravitating, especially a couple of years ago, so much towards Jordan Peterson is because not only is he giving them like a playbook of how to be a man, but he's also showing them empathy, which in today's climate is not often showed to men because,
that straight white man, like,
and
you're the devil.
I get sick of that too, but it's also like you must understand if you are a man listening, a straight man listening, that like part of the reason why your feelings are dismissed now is because for centuries our feelings and needs were rejected. Yeah. And I understand that maybe
rejecting the rejector is not the way to get to where we want.
For sure. And I totally get that like maybe it wasn't even like you specifically or your generation who was doing it, but the same as, often people who look a certain way will be held accountable for other people who look a different sort of way and how they were treated. Like, and that could be applied to so many different types of thing in society. And it's just kind of like the hand that you're dealt during the generation that you grew up with.
Yeah.
And she kind of writes, this is especially compelling in a moment when many young men feel their difficulties are often dismissed out of hand as whining from a patriarchy they don't feel part of. For young men in particular, the assumption of a world built to serve their sex doesn't align with their lived experience, where girls out-achieve them from pre-K to postgraduate studies, and, quote, men are trash is an acceptable joke.
Right.
Not on Instagram. You will get flagged on Instagram.
Nice. Mark Zuckerberg got tired of hearing it.
Then there's the point-by-point advice. If young men are looking for direction, these influencers give them a clear script to follow. And that's the thing. Like sometimes you just need like wake up in the morning. Yeah, wake up in the morning. Read this book.
I feel like P. Diddy.
Follow this person.
Yeah.
And like she says,
that's why religion was so hot.
Yeah.
Back in the olden days and currently, but it's just not as popular anymore. It's because give me something to believe in when really you just believe in yourself.
Well, I think I would argue that religion actually is still extremely popular, but it's just not modern religions. It's more like woo-woo religions, which is still
that's true.
It's religion, tarot, all that's all religion. It's all the same stuff.
Religious as fuck in that case.
That's exactly that's just it was just replaced with that stuff where it's not like a specific God because religion is so associated with so many things that are not acceptable, especially to like left-leaning people, as far as like anti-LGBTQ, anti-choice rhetoric. So I just thought this was like a very
The article's missing a lot.
Huh?
The article's missing a lot of reasons that I think men also feel.
Well, I mean, that wasn't the whole article. This is it's a 43-minute read, Michael.
No, of course. But I think that there's I think I've even said this before on this podcast. Like, we are one of the first generations where military service isn't something that is a mandatory thing.
I think that was actually brought up in this article.
Well, all right, then we missed it in sort of the recap, I guess. But I think that's a huge part of it. Yeah. Oh, my bad. Well,
no, keep going.
I think that that's a huge part of this. I think that my grandfather's generation, on my dad's side, he fought in World War II. And then when he came home, there was an obvious purpose for him. He had the GI Bill. He had money. He had
PTSD.
Probably, yeah, which is not good. But I mean, and then a lot of men didn't come home. Obviously, got killed, and it's easier to find a job. At that point, there was still a lot of manual labor to be done. That's something that's decreasing.
The article talks about the decrease in manual labor has contributed to this feeling.
If you don't have to run a farm and you're doing all the shit that men would have had to do at the turn of the century, build a railroad,
But I guess maybe we're at a point where I love leaning into my feminine side and my womanly, the parts about being a woman that I gravitate towards most. I really enjoy playing with which one do I want to lean into? Do I want to go out and be really fucking slutty and turn every head that I walk by? Okay, then I'm going to do this. Do I want to be kind of invisible? That's easy. I know how to do that. And just kind of playing with that. How do I feel as a woman in the world? But my main way that I identify myself is not by my gender. So I wonder if that's also fucking us up. Woman is lower on the list of things that I feel I am the most. It's sixth place, to be honest.
So what are the other ones?
Comedian, friend.
No
I
man.
don't think of friend.
No man is listing friend above man.
But also
for sure.
when I think of myself, I guess I worded that wrong. When I think of myself, a woman is not high on the list. I just think of my personality traits and who I am and my endless well of curiosity. That's so much more defining to myself than woman.
Sure.
So I also wonder if there's some deeper digging that should be done with men so you can kind of go beyond your gender. And obviously, feeling like you have a place in the world is so important to every single human being on this planet. We want to feel like we belong. But, maybe your gender is not where you're going to find that.
Right. I mean, that's interesting because I was woman is definitely at the top of the list for me. It's I would say woman and comedian are the two things that pivot because it's such a specific industry that we're in. But for me, it's it doesn't. To me, it doesn't narrow the possibilities of what I can be. To me, woman is so powerful, so all-encompassing that to me, it's just if anything, makes the choices that I have to make or the things that I can achieve or the things that I can do that much wider. And she also kind of brings up that, women are still being given a lot of tools to help them overcome the disadvantages because we're still considered a minority, as far as which, if there's two sexes, which is the minority. And I know there's, a zillion. We kind of, men are just kind of expected to shape up by themselves,
which is hard
with no, help. And she even kind of makes this point that Barack Obama during his presidency tried to announced that he was doing this thing called the My Brother's Keeper Initiative, which was a $200 million program meant to improve the lives of at-risk boys and men of color. The pushback came immediately. More than 1,000 women, that's not a lot of women though. More than 1,000, wow. Signed an open letter criticizing the program for not including girls. More recently, when news circulated in 2022 that President Biden's $1.2 trillion infrastructure act would likely create thousands of jobs for working class men. There was an MSNBC pundit, Joy Reid, who dismissively called it a white guy employment act, right? But it's the employment issue as far as the workplace, men are still killing us, not killing, or stomping us in the top jobs. But as far as entering those, all the other jobs, women are making far more strides than men are.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Very interesting. And there was a conversation I had at your party, Corinne, when I was there with one of your guests who we both know, but he was telling me that when he experienced his partner have a baby, he immediately understood why guys go through midlife crises. And I'm like, that's very interesting. I've never heard that take. Tell me more. And he was like, I knew when I saw our child come out of my wife's body that I will never do anything that great for as long as I live. And I'm like, that to me was like, oh, that's very interesting. Like, and I was like, I didn't know a lot of men felt like that. And he's like, yeah, I've talked to some like new dads about it, and they did they kind of shared similar sentiments. I'm like, wow, that's so fascinating. That like you wouldn't immediately go towards, I'm going to be such a beautiful father. Like, what a great contribution to the world to be a good father. That is more valuable than you could ever know. Like, just like a great mother is such a valuable thing to contribute to society. You're putting out a well-adjusted kid? What? Thank you. Thank you for your service.
Right. But so, I mean, it almost feels like he was like in a way emasculated by his fucking, the birth of his own child, which is
fucked up, man.
Which is so masculine. And it's like, I mean, I think you could give men in many ways the same notes that you could give younger generations or if comedy audiences. It's like my experience and what I'm talking about really is not, it doesn't change you, diminish what you're doing, take away from what you're doing. Like, we're both doing different things that hopefully in the end will work in conjunction in society.
Yeah.
But like me doing something doesn't take that, especially something that you can't do, doesn't take away from the contributions that you're making to the world.
Yeah.
And I overheard that a little bit. And I understood what he's saying, and that is a person who has done a lot of work on himself, has gone to therapy,
That's why I was
been
like,
through a lot in his life. Even though he is white, he's been through. He's not had a great life, and he's really like. The life that he has now, he is, and I should be so proud of. Yeah, there was also a part of me that it made me sad because it's just like, oh, like it's still men seeing our greatest achievement, no matter what we do, is creating another life. Yeah, another life, and it's like I love that men see mothers as so powerful, but I wish that they could see
how powerful they
us
are.
Succeeding in other ways as equally powerful and equally valuable to society, because I think that's still where their vision of us is falling short, right? So I do think that they now see us as like beyond sexual beings, but it's only like, okay, but mothers, and then definitely a mother maybe doing something else is cool, but as a woman who is powerful and has made her own space in the world, who is not a mother,
where's she
not as respected?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And it's hard because, like, I don't know. I mean, I think many women still believe that creating another life is the most powerful, incredible thing that you could do. I would argue that creating I think creating a human life is not at all impressive.
No.
I think raising a person in the world who is an upstanding citizen is an incredible achievement, and one that few are achieving.
And that take a lot of
few
work.
are achieving.
Yes, and I'm like, that's what we should take pride in as people that pump kids out. Like, if you're going to have a kid, if you're going to adopt a kid, whatever.
Talk to me when you're 60, and then we'll see whether or not you were a great mother.
And then you could say, like, the work you did to raise that child, that ain't no fucking joke.
Oh,
and
it's no joke.
If you put a good person out of the world, God bless you.
Yeah,
you know
that is probably the hardest thing that you can do.
And giving birth, like, you know, a woman who's pregnant doesn't sit there and go, and now I'm going to make the heart of my child. Ooh, and now the two eyeballs. We're not doing anything. Whatever force is behind a fetus developing into a baby, kind of has nothing to do with us. So it's like, yeah, we did this thing that hurts. But yeah,
I also doubt that, like, if you took a survey of mothers, that if they said, like, what was the hardest part of raising a child,
it's not the birth.
I think very few people would say the actual physical birth, even though that is 100% bodily trauma.
For sure, but like, you forget about it immediately because of the hormones. And the only the times that, like, I've ever heard a woman still talk about, like, a birth experience was when, like, she almost fucking died, or when her baby almost died, because now you're emotionally traumatized in addition to being, like, physically traumatized.
Right.
You know?
Right. Yeah.
But also, too, at the end of the day, every person listening to this podcast, regardless of your gender, regardless of your race, you are an extremely powerful creature. And I just want everybody to like realize their own individual power, because that would be so sick. That's the world I want to live in, baby.
Yeah, I think it would be like, but it's also like when I think about like I'm now thinking a little bit about like what tools that I feel like I have been given as a woman to help me to learn how to be a woman. Like, what are we talking about? Home economics class? Like what, there was no, I mean, basically like the best example that you're going to get is your parents, you know, when you talk about like that, like as far as like but again, like my parents had very swapped, or in many ways swapped gender roles. So it's not like I was learning how to necessarily like be and also that's, I guess, why my view of what it means to be a woman is probably very different.
Unique. Yeah. That's why, like, that's what one of the many reasons why Beyonce is my idol, because the type of woman she is, is so incredibly attractive to me in every way. And that's something that I like. She has qualities that, as a performer, as a person, whatever, but as a woman, her feminine qualities are such a turn on to me. And it's like something I hope to emulate in my own way. So it's like, yeah, we really do take whatever resonates with us about femininity. And
I think she talks about this in the article as well. And it goes on and on. It's very long. You guys should read it. But she talks a lot about how for so long, like men, as we know, were dependent on women to be like, you know, their emotional support animals, for lack of a better word. You know, and I think about that a lot, and like how often when I observe people achieving great things in society, behind every great man there is a great woman, and then behind every great woman it's just herself.
It's her dog, maybe.
Yeah, an animal.
Yeah.
A parent, maybe.
Tamagotchi.
A mom. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so it's like, yes, I feel empathy for men, or sympathy even, that there are less, you know, tools offered. But then I reflect on my own life and I go, well, what were the tools that I had? Again, besides the parents, there was not any like outside tools to that. If anything, in all the careers and things that I've pursued in my life, it was extremely male dominated fields. So I was working against the flow.
Yeah, and it sucks to feel lost in the world. It's a really sad feeling, but it leads to really great things. That feeling of feeling lost in the world, when you feel that, consider yourself lucky, because what that's doing is that's an arrow. It's pointing to who the fuck knows, but you know, wherever you go, there you are. So get to know you.
Right. Yeah. So again, we'll be discussing that more and more over the coming months. I think the concept of masculinity, etc.
Yes, and guys, we're very excited to welcome our guest for this episode. She is a rapper, comedian, and actress from New York City. You may have seen her on hit television shows like Wild 'N Out on MTV or A League of Their Own. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the show,
LIL FREX.